Hello, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Sharpening Report. Tonight, we're going to be talking about prepping for pennies. I titled it Penny Prepper, but it's essentially the same thing. So, we're going to be talking about things you can do to prep, low cost options. With things going the way they've gone right now, you never know with the way our economy is and possible war, all these things looming. It's always good to have some kind of a plan to be able to have food and water present, so you can survive in a time of crisis. So I've got some food storage myself that I made, but I need to really get myself up to speed on everything else. So this will be a little bit of an education for me as well. But tonight I have on with me Rhonda Morgera, and Rhonda has helped us out a little bit behind the scenes with some different things, but her experience where she's really spent a lot of time is in the realm of prepping, uh, in her own personal arena. She's done a lot of work in prepping, basically learning how to prep for low cost, and so that's basically what we're going to talk about tonight. So, thanks for joining us tonight, Rhonda.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get started, Rhonda. So if someone doesn't know anything about prepping, they don't know how to basically where to even start. Where would you say? I mean, obviously, the most fundamental thing is going to be food and water, but what would be the first place you think people should start when they're looking at options for how to basically survive under various conditions? Like, where do you really start with all this?
Well, the first place you start is trusting in the Lord with all of your heart and leaning not on your own understanding, but acknowledging Him in all of your ways, even your prepping, and He'll direct your path. Food is getting so expensive. If the people who are watching want organic prep, this is not your kind of prep show. And there's so many preppers out there. There's so many different ways of prepping, but this is my way. I've been prepping since Y2K. I started out with probably 25 bags of Halloween candy, and because I thought Y2K was going to occur, and it was just a big, and um, and then I just took it from there, and I've grown. And what it is it's basic, it's knowledge, and you need to go and glean the internet. You have to bring it back basics, back to old school. So what I've done is I've bought large amounts of flour and sugar and rice and beans, and then you can't just leave it in the bags because all of that stuff has microscopic eggs in it, and we don't want to think about that, but it does. It has microscopic, either little weevil eggs or moth eggs. So you have to learn how to
Wait, all flour does?
all of it does, wheat and
Really?
rice. Yes, because the wheat, when they grind it, the white flour probably not. But when you have of an open pancake batter or a bag of flour and it has those little black weevils in there, they're still microscopic. They're not microscopic. I can see them with my eyes. So they're very tiny little eggs. They're everywhere, and we normally just eat them. So you have to
Oh,
learn how to. The
I'm
worms are
done with
worse.
pancakes. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
done. You just basically, I think, solved my problem with processed
no,
carbs.
no, because
Ugh.
actually, to kill the eggs, you can freeze it or double freeze it for a couple of days. Going to sprout, you can put them in the oven on 250 for half an hour, and that kills the eggs. But what
But
I
they're still there. Like you're
oh
still
yeah,
gonna.
they
Ugh.
oh they sure are. So people
Okay.
say that they don't have the money to prep, and if you look at your budget, the best place to start after spiritual preparedness is that you look at your budget and you do away with anything that's not necessary. Your rent and your utilities is and food for yourself is the basic. But
So
if you're
Starbucks latte goes bye bye then.
well, yeah, and maybe use it just as a treat, because if you add
Yeah.
that up in a month's time, we could be spending 60, $70,
Hmm.
and $60 and $70 worth of rice or long-term food storage is a lot of money. I sold my TV. I got rid of my cable because you can do everything on the internet. And so you look through your budget and you find disposable income. That's the first place. By teaching people to do this over the years, I've heard every excuse. Well, Rhonda, I don't have any place to put it. Well, if I was to turn this camera, my laptop, which I'm not going to, you would see that my preps have now invaded into my living space. And there are some crafty, handy ways you can make tables and end tables. Um, but there are excuses. Everybody has excuses of why they can't prep, but you have to because you don't want to go hungry. And I live in the city, so I've been canning probably for 6 or 7 years. So I have 500 plus canning jars of meat and stews, and that it's for me to use now, but it's not for me. It's for the people who are going to come into my home because I live in a city. Um, how to start? You integrate. You look at all your sales flyers. You look, especially at the large at the large drugstore chains, Walgreens, Rite Aid, any whatever you have in your area, and they have great deals. They have really great deals sometimes. But I start with flour, sugar, and rice. And if you look at other countries, they load up on bread. You look at the Middle Eastern countries and they eat pita. In Mexico, they eat tortillas. China, they fill up on rice, and it's not very nutritious. And yeah, you'll probably get sick and die, but you won't be hungry. And then you can integrate things after that. So, Jake, if you want to put bottles, the soda bottles.
Sure. Hang on one second.
So where people are green, everybody's into green. People in your neighborhood. I live in a downtown of a city. So if I need bottles, I go to my neighbor's house on recycling day. Your bottles, and so long as they have a cap on it, and you can tell if they're dirty, and you just rinse them off. You just rinse them out. You can put pasta, you can put your rice, your flour, your sugar in these, but you don't want to leave any air in there. So you're gonna want to buy oxygen absorbers off of Amazon, right. and find the best price. They're pretty cheap. And then you want to put in an oxygen absorber inside of it to suck all the air out. Dark place, because that's what the eggs need is air and light, and they already have a food source. Freeze it or bake it in the oven. It lasts forever, and you can lay them down and stack them, and you can stack them in a pyramid.
So you say you bake the dry goods in the oven?
You bake them at a very low temperature, hot enough to kill the eggs, or freeze them, or just stick the bags in the freezer for a couple of days, and that supposedly kills the eggs. Me, in times of hunger, I would just eat the little buggers.
Yeah.
So these are some food storage container ideas instead of going out and investing a lot of money. And what I've done is I've gone to all these sites that sell long-term survival buckets. In the description, they'll rip apart what's in there. And I can't believe that they're selling this bucket for $250 when it has oats and macaroni. And do buy from long-term storage survival companies or powdered cheese, or they have real cheese that's freeze-dried, and powdered butter, because you can make a lot of dishes out of that. I would suggest that people, start out with sugar and flour, and you have baking soda and baking powder. You can make yourself quick breads and flat breads and something else I'd recommend is that you get yourself a food dehydrator. And then you could dehydrate tomatoes. You can make dishes like you can dehydrate anything. The Japanese dehydrate lamb and pork and shrimp. But I don't, who knows if we're going to make it to summer. But you can make dishes like chili and American chop suey, and so long as you rinse your beef water after you cook it, and your dish contains none or very little fat, you can actually dehydrate it and then put it in a seal-a-meal and seal it up, and then it can be like an MRE or an almost MRE, and that's
Is that similar? That's basically similar to the Mylar bag.
exactly a Mylar bag. For those of you who don't know what they are, it's a potato chip bag. If you look inside of your potato chip bag, deep down inside, it's shiny, like aluminum, and it's made out of a plastic, or yeah, it's made out of Mylar, just like a Mylar balloon. And you can actually, if you're really thrifty and you can't afford them, you can actually rinse out your potato chip bags and reseal them. Seal-a-meals, if you shop online, are relatively cheap. You can go to a secondhand shop, but they're relatively cheap on eBay.
Okay.
Or at Walmart. Just you got to be a smart shopper, you know. So this is another way here in the Mylar. I don't recommend seal-a-mealing flour unless you put it in another container inside of the bag, because it sucks up all the dust and it's really hard to seal. This is more for, things with a larger, yes, a larger grain, right?
But
right.
You can do cheese,
and then this is how
cheese and stuff like that in there, though, right? No, you don't want to do that.
You can do cheese. You can do cheese and store it. You can do cheese like if you buy bulk shredded cheese, you put it in here, seal-a-meal it, and then put it in your refrigerator, and it lasts literally a month.
Right.
But I lost what I was going to say, but it's all right.
No, that's okay. So basically, the idea is you're killing off the weevils, so that they don't reproduce and basically live in your food. Now, can they make you sick? I mean, is that the reason to get rid of them, or is it just
no? They destroy your food.
Okay, so
they destroy your food because I've had to throw away a lot of food due to improper food storage, because these little moths. I had a bird. She just passed away after 25 years. She had the eggs on her seeds. The seeds would hatch, form, and as they grow, you'll get big piles of eggs, and it's in your food, and it's just disgusting, And you can wash them out if you're going to eat the food. You want to be prepared. You want to prepare it correct the first time, and so heating and freezing is the best way to do that. But in these
sorry, I was just going to say, I've been told with pancake mixes and stuff like that you can actually get sick if you eat an old pancake mix. So I was just curious, maybe if that had something to do with it, but something can happen, I guess, to it.
I don't know. I've eaten old pancake mix and I've never gotten sick. I don't know. But when I get pancake mix, I put it in quart canning jars, and then I store it on my shelves, and I throw a piece of masking tape and write what it is on there. But I went on one of our sites, and I ripped apart a food bucket. When it had oatmeal, and it had macaroni, and it had I'm drawing a blank here. It had all sorts of freeze dried items. It had powdered tomatoes in there, and it's possible to make your own long-term storage buckets. And you say, well, where do we? Go ahead,
I was
Jake.
just going to say, I found out on the pancake mix, actually what can happen is it becomes toxic because of mold that can grow within the mix. And so these solutions you're talking about, does that deal with mold too, I guess?
Well, you're not going to get any mold. You're not going to get any mold, just like canning, if you have absence of air, light, air and light, right, and moisture.
Okay.
And if you go into your grocery store to get a 5-gallon bucket, and the difference between a food grade 5-gallon bucket and a non-food grade bucket is the processing, how they get it off the mold. In order to get one of those yellow Home Depot buckets, which are not food grade, off of a mold, they lubricate the mold with something. It's a toxic lubricant. But how they get the food grade buckets off is they blow it off with air, so that the inside of your food bucket doesn't have any residue in there. So I go into my grocery store, and you can go into Walmart. Walmart sells them for $1 a piece, but I go into my grocery store to the bakery department and I ask them, do you have any frosting buckets? And they always have huge stacks of them. With the lids, you make sure that there's a black gasket inside of the lid because that's what truly gives you a seal. And then you could buy Mylar bags that are 5-gallon that actually slip down inside of the buckets. And I have taken cake mixes, muffin mixes, macaroni and cheese, macaroni. I've taken all those boxes and I just squish them. I just lay them in the box and squish them down. You seal up the 5-gallon Mylar and put the lid on it.
I would just get the buckets with the frosting in it.
Yeah, right? No, there's no frosting.
Yeah, I hear you.
You do have to wash them out a little bit.
Right. There's no boiling or anything like that required, though. It's just basically cleaning it out.
I just sit on the edge of my tub and I put it in the tub and I squirt some liquid soap on a sponge and I just wash it out. And it's so pretty well use all the frosting. So it's not that difficult to get it out.
Okay. Awesome.
So
So that's just at most grocery stores that have a bakery, then they've got.
Right. Like at Kroger's, I know people say Kroger's. I found my first Kroger's when I went to Knoxville, but I don't know if they have a bakery department. But Walmart, they can. If they buy long-term storage buckets online, they're going to waste their money with shipping and handling. And
Yeah, I bought some food grade storage buckets, like at Home Depot or something like that. And I want to say they weren't exactly cheap to buy.
no, they're not.
Yeah.
No, and when you can get them for free, it motivates you. So if people go online and look in those long-term storage buckets, what they're giving you, they have freeze dried. Freeze dried is actually the quality of food you want, because when you freeze dry, the cell or what the organism stays open, but when you dehydrate, it flattens. So it takes a long time
Takes the nutrition. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't take all the nutrition out, but it takes a long time to reconstitute dehydrated food.
Okay.
But I dehydrate everything. I dehydrate roasts. You put a roast in your pressure cooker and it takes 20 minutes, and then you run it under hot water after you've shredded it. Out a lot of the flavor, but it's for a protein source.
How long?
And then I'll put it in the dehydrator.
How long will something like that last?
There are
through the dehydrator.
There are charts online that say, a year, 2 years. There's the safety Nazis out there. Like you can't can milk or you can't can butter. Well, I do, I tell you. There is a time limit, and I don't know what it is for every item. You have to rotate. You have to label, date, and rotate your food. You eat it and make some more.
So you're eating the food that you're prepping, but making more. So you're just basically keeping a stock of a certain.
Right. I have some stews that are 7 years old that I'm a little questionable about. There's the seal hasn't broken on them, and I kind of take them and I look up, and it's a little nerve-wracking to eat something that has meat in it.
Is that where you just give a little to your cat or something like that and see if it's...
No, because botulism actually takes 1 week to show signs and symptoms. It takes a week. So it's not like food poisoning. But when I do boil like stew, I will boil it at a very high boil for like 10, 15 minutes. And then that's why we ask the Father to bless our food.
Bless this toxic dish to the nourishment of our bodies.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, how many times, honestly, though, do we say grace over a plate filled with processed carbs? I mean, I understand we're thanking the Lord and basically praising him for the food, but yeah, I mean, essentially, guys, to really eat healthy these days, I mean, you pretty much have to grow it and kill it and all that yourself, because most of the stuff we get from the industry is so processed that it's nowhere near as healthy if you have like pure organic and all that. But anyways,
but our soil is still so toxic due to the chemtrailing. So what I have over there is I have a small little greenhouse, and I grow macro greens. And if you could bring up the macro green picture, You could buy seeds by the pound online, very very inexpensively. You buy the eighth of the pound, quarter of a pound, half a pound, and so on. You put a little bit of dirt, or you buy a cocoa pad, or a This is too bad that's not a good picture.
Hang
But
on, I'll zoom in a little bit on it. I mean, we can make it work. It's just going to be a little bit pixelated.
Now you would never grow this much because you would never consume it. But like if you were to buy radish greens or broccoli seeds, excuse me, and just a couple of dollars for a half a pound of them, and you're not going to use very many, and you sprout them. So everybody knows what sprouts are. So you take it one step beyond the sprouts, and you grow them right before the secondary leaf comes out. And I understand, and I have read that is where the most nutrients are in a plant life, from germination to death. And this is what I'm doing all winter in my house because I can't grow. And you have to stagger them, and you can do all sorts of seeds. Every seed and nut can be sprouted and consumed. So, but this is great. Macro greens are great because I'm probably going to be on the run. That's just my assumption of what's going to happen. People are going to come and consume my food while I leave the city. Right. So that's why I make my little MREs with soups, and because I dehydrate all the tomatoes I grow and turn it into a powder, and cheese and meats and nuts, and something called pemmican. And I'll remind me to tell you about pemmican. Are all things to go in a backpack to travel with. But my new thing.
I was just going to say, while you brought it up, why don't we talk about pemmican now?
Well, people can look up the recipe on pemmican. But what pemmican is it goes back to the cowboy and Indian days, and the settlers who went across our continent. And what pemmican is you would take a beef roast, excuse me, and you would cook it until it's shredded, and then you would render some tallow. And what tallow is it's suet, and you would render it, and then you would add berries to it. And there's a very specific recipe on YouTube. I learn everything on YouTube. And you shred the meat and you dehydrate it after you cook it. And then you mix it in with the berries, and you can mix it in with nuts and raisins. And then you put it inside of you submerge it into the rendered tallow or suet. And it's a cake that virtually lasts for. This is what the settlers ate. It's very dry. It's very greasy because you're eating suet. And so these are the kinds of things that you would want to have for when you have to leave your home. It's very interesting though. But I guess you can survive on pemmican.
Huh. Well, if it's got berries in it and it has the meat and the proteins,
and the fats,
it's got some of your antioxidants, it's got your fat, it's got your protein. It's not going to have all the vitamins that the green foods give you, but this would be a lot better than eating straight like carbs that have like almost zero nutrition, but just fill you up.
That's right. And you could sprout if you were in a survival situation out in the woods. You could actually sprout, and some sprouts. If when I sprout my my wheatgrass, it sprouts in 24 hours if I keep it warm. So you put it in your sleeping bag or under your jacket or whatever.
Right.
So
well, that's interesting. So apparently, this I guess is not that hard to make. Then is it? You've made
well, that's jerky.
Oh, that is okay.
That's all jerky right there.
Right here.
Yes, but there is a specific recipe. You put it out in a flat, pan until it until the oil cools, and then of course it hardens like wax. But I bet you it's pretty tasty, and there's salt in there, so I can only imagine it tastes pretty good. It's not the healthiest, but it'll give you your nutrients because me is 20 miles away, and it would be on foot. And it's hard enough for me to walk to the bus stop to pick up my grandson, never mind, 20 feet.
Right.
So you need your energy. You need
Interesting.
some
This is the
nutrients.
first time I've ever heard of pemmican. Huh.
It's amazing. And if you look it up, now, how long does something last? Government requires any manufacturer of anything that's consumed orally to put a date on it, an
Right.
expiration date. And I don't believe any of those expiration dates,
So you think a lot of this stuff lasts a lot longer than what they're saying?
Absolutely. They've opened up canning jars that, they found down Granny's cellar that have been 50 years old. You can read articles. It's really important. The Bible does say that, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Does that mean lack of knowledge of food storage? Maybe. My God is big enough to deliver me or to have someone deliver me a hot cheeseburger out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Because that's the God I serve.
Well, and he normally
And
does. He normally does Burger King. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
well, either whatever, but and I don't want to be a lack of faith
No.
by prepping in my home or for the people who are coming here. But that's the one thing I wanted to tell you about is we have a 3-foot frost line. I'm in New Hampshire, and we freeze 3 feet down. So I was wondering if I put all of my dehydrated food in Mylar bags and inside of seal meals, inside of canning jars, and I dug a hole. I can't dig a hole now, but if I dug a hole in the fall and put raw manure and salt mixture down the bottom of the hole, and then when I backfilled it, I would mix lots of rock salt that I have out on my sidewalk right now in with the dirt that I could possibly dig up my bucket in the dead of winter, probably with my hatchet. And I might be able to still dig the ground. We're not into a deep freeze now, so that's something that I'm looking into this year.
Now, I'm wondering if it were uncovered, like if it just had a surface covering on it, like a little board or something, and then it's
Yes.
still deep down. I wonder if it would still freeze in that manner, like year round. I don't know.
I think it would freeze. And canning jars are meant to go through extreme temperatures, through freezing.
Right.
You can freeze canning jars, and of course we bake them and boil them. But that's my biggest thing is I need to find a place to stash my food. And God will send the crows with bits of bread in their mouth. I know my Father will, but I don't want to be foolish and know that things are coming. And I'm a big girl. Hunger scares me.
Well, yeah, me too. And I jokingly say that my food prep is what I have on my body, my 90-day supply of excess. But anyway, so Rhonda, or actually, guys watching tonight, if you guys want to join us in chat, feel free. You guys can ask questions or give feedback. I'd love for anyone who wants you to participate with us tonight. By the way, before we get too far along, I would like to let you guys know. A lot of you probably already know, but tonight we're literally I'm going 6 to midnight tonight. Got a lot of great shows coming up. I've got Ron Bublets coming up. After Rhonda, after that, I've got another gentleman coming named Sean Bledsoe. He's got an amazing testimony. And then later tonight on Truth Frequency Radio, I've got Ron coming back again to talk about his book and ancient prophecies, aliens, that type of thing. So we've got some great stuff going on tonight. So any of you guys that want to participate in chat, feel free to join us, ask questions, give feedback. This is actually the first thing I've ever done on prepping. I know a little bit about it, but I can tell you already I'm more interested in it now, just talking about it briefly. To me, this is really interesting stuff and really practical stuff too. We need to have some kind of plan in place, and I think this is great stuff. So Rhonda, so you're thinking you could freeze like in your backyard, depending on where the frost line is. This could be something that people could use everywhere.
Yes.
And it's probably
absolutely.
Is it different?
Because the bugs are going to get in the bucket regardless. So if you stored it in canning jars, just enough in your bucket, and put perhaps some water and a knife and some firewood, a fire starter, Vaseline and cotton balls and some wooden matches. I wouldn't keep it in my yard. I would have it along the way to my location of safety.
Well, this someone in chat here tonight, Peter, he said grow potatoes and winter squash, cabbage, and he said and make a root cellar or simple hole in the ground. So I think he's talking about something very similar, where you're.
Well, we have cellars on the East Coast. I'm sorry, I interrupted you,
No, you're
Jake.
fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So are we going to get another growing season? I hope the Father allows us to grow one more season. But that's what I do. I pull my potatoes and my onions and my squashes. I put, actually, you can get pantyhose or tights and put your potatoes and your onions, and you can hang them from your rafters. But I pull the whole head of cabbage out, root and all, and I hang it upside down from the rafters in my cellar. And you won't think it's good because all the leaves start, drying up and getting crispy, but you open it up and it's perfect. But yes, they do have root cellars. People can just go onto YouTube and how to dig a root cellar and how to insulate it and how to cap it off. It's really important.
And I imagine there's even a way to conceal it, would be my guess, to
Oh,
make it
yes.
look like, I can imagine there's some engineers out there that it wouldn't take much to just take like a board, put some dirt and grass on it, and basically cut out a block where basically it literally looks like it's just grass over it. But
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that works, but I imagine there's people out there that do stuff like that. They just conceal it in the yard. Because most
So
people aren't going to think to look
mm-mm,
for something that they can't see,
that is correct. That's what it's all about. Like people who hunt, they build duck blinds, and I wanted to actually camouflage my buckets up at my location
Uh-huh.
on top of the ground with bales of hay surrounding it, and to build a duck blind right there because it looks like a mound of brush that somebody threw in the woods.
Interesting.
But what I
Well, and
wanted
when it, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you finish up because I was going on to something else.
No, just continue with what you're saying.
So what I wanted to talk about was for in-home water filters, and somebody blessed me and bought me a Berkey water filter and my Berkey filter. So what I wanted to tell people is and you can tell that Berkey is a real company because you can go right on the Berkey site and learn how to make your own Berkey filter. And you want to buy Berkey filters or any filters that take at least 99% of things out. And now that we have radiation to worry about, you can really see that the devil is just hurling, just day after day, just hurling things at us. Our joy, And so if you want to bring up the picture of the water filter, you take two of those free buckets you got from the grocery store.
Right. 1 second. Hang on. Go ahead.
And you can go online and you can buy a spigot, and it comes with and a bung, and you can actually make your own Berkey water filter, and you can get 5 gallons as opposed to mine is 2.5 gallons, is a smaller one. So if you go and search out how to make your own Berkey filter, and you could even put four sticks in there, where these are only 2, and it's going to take an eternity to filter 5 gallons of water. So if you did 4 filters, it would go, the rate of water flow is faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Find out
Wow, that's really cool. So they're just basically taking simple buckets and they're drilling holes in it and running the filters right through, and then boom, the bottom bucket receives the water. Wow,
yes.
that's really simple.
And you can buy that little kit online for just mere pennies, like mere dollar, just a few bucks.
When you say you can make your own Berkey filters, explain that real quick.
No,
Like
you can make your own.
You can't make the elements. You're saying make the actual device.
Right. You can make your own water filter. You can take a 2-liter bottle, tip it upside down, and fill it with charcoal and sand and grass and twigs, and you fill it up probably 8 or 9 inches, and fill the whole 2-liter bottle up to give the water something to filter through. And then you would want to boil your water 10 minutes to kill any microorganisms in there. So it is possible to you can't replicate a Berkey filter out of
Yeah.
anything.
Well, I've been told that, or I've seen on different programs where they took gravel. Like they say you can take gravels and different layers of organic elements, and the earth will actually naturally filter things. But I don't know how simple that is to do, and how many gallons. I mean, that's probably a very, very slow process. But you can see here where people even did it with, look, they used igloos and they're just using stuff they have around the house because the igloo already has the spigot. This
Yes.
person even added like a sight glass to it, so that's really cool.
Well,
Some Go ahead.
even for women who are listening that say, "Well, I don't have a drill and a drill bit that's 3/4 of an inch," but you do have a neighbor. You do have a nice neighbor who you can say, "Gee, can you drill a hole in this bucket for me?" And
Yeah,
maybe you could teach them.
right.
But I don't. But it's hard because women, older women get they don't have the right equipment, but people are always willing to help. Look at that, the gravel and your charcoal.
Yeah, so literally, what they've done here is they've got layers of gravel, layers of sand, and layers of charcoal in a bucket, and you put water in the top bucket, and it literally, that's amazing. Wow. Guys, it's not going to get any simpler than that. I have not vetted this process, but
That's an old school.
that's amazing. If it really works, I mean, do your research because this is just something that I just found on Google. But if that really works, wow, that's even going to be cheaper than going out and buying the elements that you could buy. Now, Rhonda, let's backtrack a little bit because I've got a few questions and comments in chat here. I just want to make sure I get to these.
Sure, no problem.
This one person in chat says, "What about those of us that live in Florida? It gets super hot and food spoils quickly." So, what would you say about that in the warmer climates? Like, is a food seller gonna work in that type of situation? Do you think, or would they have to go a different route,
I
like
don't I
dehydrating?
don't think in Florida that they have cellars in
Okay,
houses. Um, I don't think that they do because of the water table. As far as dried food spoiling, it doesn't because it doesn't have any light, it doesn't have any air, and it doesn't have
right,
any moisture. Spoil inside of a airtight container. I mean, yes,
right,
it does get very hot, and I don't know if people, they have their air conditioning on. You can store it in a dark closet in the back, where you could put a fan. A fan doesn't cost that much money to run,
yeah,
and just to because a fan will move hot air and make it cooler.
right,
But we're not talking about sealing food in a whole state. You're
yeah.
taking water out of the food. You're dehydrating it completely, or you're not storing wet
Right.
food.
Well, the next person, Peter, he basically asked what the best quality brand water filter is out there, and I'll weigh in on this because I've got one myself, and the company I work for, they actually sell them. But the Berkey stainless steel systems are fantastic. The Berkey filters. Now that's just what houses it. The stainless steel is designed to keep out mold, and it's just basically a better container for your water and stuff. But as far as the elements go, uh, it's basically ceramic. It's ceramic filters that they're using. So it's this ceramic porous, like ceramic. I'll show you. This is what it looks like. The ceramic.
That black is actually plastic.
Oh, it is okay.
Yes, it's a hollow plastic filter.
But the
But the
Berkey
white,
does the Berkey does ceramic filters, right?
yes, those that white one that you just passed, they're called
Yeah.
candlesticks.
Right.
You want to look up the specs on a filter
But but
and
one
how
thing,
much they claim.
yeah, one thing that you got to consider though on these is this will take out any organic issues in regards to water purification. What it won't deal with, what the ceramic will not deal with, is chemical type stuff, right? Like it's not going to take a lot of chemicals and stuff like that out of your water. So if you want to get rid of fluoride, like say you're just going to take tap water and run it through, you actually need a specialized fluoride filter that'll take some of those things out underneath. Basically on the underside of the bucket, you would have on the underside another filter screwed into that. They sell these like fluoride filters, stuff like that. So just be advised, this is not going to take care of chemicals by itself here, but rainwater and stuff like that. You could run rainwater, my understanding, pond water, anything like that. It will literally filter it out. I haven't tested that type of water before, but I can tell you, like when I lived in Kansas City, our water a lot of times would smell like fish. Like it just smelled nasty. Once you run it through that filter and everything, all that smell and everything was gone, and the water tasted fantastic.
Right.
So basically, you're looking 5 gallon buckets then, and a couple of ceramic filters, and you're in
I
business, right?
I choose the Pro Pure, which Alex
Pro
Jones
Pure.
sells. That
Okay.
takes out everything. That takes out radiation, fluoride. It takes it all out. Does it really? I don't know. I haven't put it to the test. But they are quite expensive.
Uh-huh.
But it's an investment in your future of your health,
Yeah.
and but it goes for the Berkey filters I have are good for 5,000 gallons.
Yeah. Well, and someone else has mentioned that fermented foods are good to go with for storage as well, because they keep vitamins and stuff like that within them. They're Someone said pre and probiotics like yogurt, sauerkraut, and so on. So I imagine the shelf life on those is shorter, but sauerkraut basically is fermented. Was it fermented cabbage with vinegar and some different seasonings and
Yeah,
spices?
it's
And
actually in the beginning stage of rotting. Ferment. You could ferment anything. It's just sugar and yeast, and the yeast eats the sugar. And there's two byproducts. One is carbon dioxide, and the other one is alcohol.
yeah,
And at the beginning stages of fermentation, that's when that's what the fermentation is the beginning stages of alcohol. You can can and kimchi and you know
yeah. Yeah, this is what the fluoride filters look like here, guys. This is what I have on the bottom side of my Berkey. It's not this exact brand, but basically it screws into the same attachment that the ceramic filter basically on the bottom of it, the part that's going through the bucket here on the bottom side of it. One of these had a screenshot. Here we go, right here. So on the bottom side of the bucket here, you can see how it's got the two little attachments there. Let me go back. Sorry.
yeah,
It's
they
got
don't
the
put fluoride in
yeah,
our water, so I don't do that.
yeah. Right. Oh, you don't have fluoride in your do you have
No, we're in
groundwater? Or?
we're in no, we're in Live Free or Die, New Hampshire. Every time it
Oh,
comes up
wow.
that they want to start putting fluoride in it, the people of New Hampshire rise up and say, "Over our dead bodies, you're gonna."
Yeah.
So for now, but
Okay,
how do we
so
know? How do we know they're not slipping it in? We know our government are dogs, and
they wouldn't do anything, Rhonda. I think you're reaching. I don't think they would ever do anything.
you
I
don't think
trust
so?
my I trust my government with everything, and whatever they tell me, I'm just kidding. Okay. So look here.
Ah,
So someone even look at this. They took literally a spigot. They didn't buy a special. They just literally took like a garden spigot that you get at the thing and used that with some washers on the bottom side of the bucket. So guys, there's a lot of options here for you to do this. This is really amazing. I think I am going to actually try out this scenario. I would love to see how this thing works. I'm going to do a little bit of research. I would love to just make one of these, because the bottom line is, if it really hit the fan and you're in a bad situation, this right here, if this works, if this gravel, sand, charcoal, which I'm sure it does because I've heard that before, but if this works, I mean, this is something that is in nature. You're not going
yes,
to
it
have to
is.
go hunting for a special filter. And of course, you can boil your water and things like that, but that's not going to be near as practical as having something that will actually just filter out all the organic elements that you don't want in your water. So there's a
That's
lot
kind
of,
of
go ahead.
Jake, that's kind of a good filter because
Yeah.
you're actually withdrawing out all of the natural
Hmm.
impurities, and then if you ran it through the Berkey with the fluoride filters, it would take your Berkey filters a lot longer. You would take you a
Yeah.
lot farther.
Well, and the ceramic filters over time, they'll build up calcium and all the minerals and stuff that you get in your water in the filter. And so you actually have to scrub them.
Yeah, I
You
scrub
have to
mine.
take a like a rough scrub pad, and actually scrub them to basically take all those things out. But yeah, so that's one thing to keep in mind is those ceramic filters are not going to last forever, but they do last a really long time. I have not replaced mine, and we bought ours in I want to say 2013 maybe, and they're still working. You know, the fluoride filters I didn't replace either, and they say I think 2 years max on them. So the fluoride filters probably are not functioning at their full capacity at this point. But you know, fluoride is one of those things they do put it in the water, but is it in so many small parts per million? I believe it does really take a long time for it to do severe damage. I might be wrong, but I mean, there's more people that know about it than me. But someone was asking in here, Rhonda, they were saying, what is the best portable option and then the best stationary water filter? So I guess they're saying if you're going to spend money, like what's a good
You
portable
mean
option?
a portable?
Yeah,
If you look at the picture that you have up now of all of the Berkeys, kind of all
right.
of the sizes, you'll see
Yeah.
a little blue bottle. Berkey sells like a water jug,
Mhm.
or you can buy life straws. Life straws take you 20, 30 gallons. You want to be careful that they're not the ones from China. Buy life straws and suck it right out of a puddle, and it's pure water. So that's what I use for
Wow.
portable. I have a bunch of those blue Berkey Sports, and then I do have some life straws. I keep
Yeah,
emergency bin in the trunk of my car.
the life straw is like $20 for that
Yes, it
thing.
is.
And
Yes, it is. If you try to
we
buy it,
own
if you
one.
try to
Yeah.
buy it cheap, more than likely it comes from China.
Right.
But
So
Jake, it could
yeah.
when we move on, can I move on to the stove? Because I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell what's the name of it again?
It's called a BioLite stove, and they're pretty expensive. But I wanted a stove that I could put in my backpack and
Hmm.
I could carry it. So this is a BioLite stove. Can um, you can look it up on eBay. On Steve Quayle's website, he has Inner Health Foods. They sell one with 10% off if you use a code, and if you're a Steve Quayle fan. And this thing, you can kick it around, you can step on it. It charges your cell phone. It comes with an LED light, and it burns twigs, sticks, pine cones, boils water in 6 minutes. Jake, can you find one with the kettle?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I did was I paid $100 for the stove, and then I went to Lowe's, Home Depot, and at the end of summer they had a discounted. See the kettle?
Which one?
Up,
This
the
one.
kettle was up. Scroll down. No, no. There's the kettle. No,
This right here.
the kettle down the
Oh,
bottom.
here.
And
Okay.
down, yes, yes, and the stove actually fits inside of the kettle, and
Interesting.
it comes with a dish to eat, and then it all slips into a nylon bag that cinches at the top, and you throw it in your backpack. You know, the kettle is $60, and the grill is $60, but you can, if you work hard and search. I found the grill for $19 on clearance at Lowe's, which is
Hmm.
like Home Depot, and the same with the kettle. But if you go into like a LL Bean outlet, see the blue stove on the right? See one of those blue stoves at
Oh, hang on. Let me back out a little bit.
there you are right there.
This one here.
Yes, that one's more powerful. And I did see that at a LL Bean outlet store. It was in
Yeah.
a glass case and it was like $59.
Now,
The really big ones they bring to third world countries for them because it's
so
smokeless.
right.
It's
So
smokeless.
someone was asking, how does this compare with the rocket stove? I don't know anything about
You
these
want to
guns.
carry you want to carry an 18-pound ammo can around with you in the woods? This is a rocket stove. And it creates its own electricity, which makes a fan turn, which then gives you a USB port to charge your phone, or there's a light. You don't want to be
Wow.
carrying an ammo can. You want something
So
that's light.
it charges itself.
The charge,
Okay.
the fire burns
Wow.
on a copper rod, which creates electricity. enough electricity to charge a cell phone and run an LED light.
Right. Which, if you're in a situation where you're having to live off of one of these things, the chances of you actually being able to use your cell phone for anything other than to watch a video that you already have saved or
That's
listen to
right.
music, it's probably going to be slim to none. But I have heard, Rhonda, about these devices now that they're selling that allow you to communicate shortwave with people. You heard about this? It's kind of
No.
like a survival cell phone network, but it's like shortwave. They're like little miniature communication devices that you can communicate for like 6 miles or something. Like it's a very compact version of kind of like a short,
Oh, like a shortwave radio.
yeah, but it doesn't require the power. Like it's a self-supported thing. And again, I don't even know the name of it. I don't know the name of it or anything like that. I just heard this on a show recently where they were talking about these devices that I guess you can talk to if somebody has the other devices or have the set that you can talk to each other. So I
Right.
probably need to
So,
look it
so,
up, but if somebody out there that's listening knows anything about it, you can comment. I just don't know the name, but go ahead.
so the reason that I went with this stove, it's virtually smokeless because the fan blows the fire so much that it just dissipates the smoke, and that's very important when you're in a survival situation because you don't want to be sending up smoke signals saying "Here I am."
Right.
So, but prepping, you can't do prepping in an hour. The thing you can do the most is you can go out onto the internet and you can just, you can just query for survival needs. I can only tell you what I do. I
Well,
can only
it
tell you the
and it's interesting because when we were talking about the water and all this stuff, to me, even the water situation, even not in a survival situation, having a way to filter your water that comes out of your tap is great because honestly, a lot of times, depending on where you live, the water may not be that great, and if it's got a lot of junk in it, or if you just want to take rainwater or whatever, that's a really convenient way because we do that now at my house downstairs. I've got a Berkey filter. We've got a spigot down there, and I fill up a 3 gallon drum, like plastic bottle, and I just fill that thing up. And that's when we're downstairs, that's where we get our waters from the Berkey. But
That's right.
um, so the stove. So you've used this stove before, like you own one, I
Yeah,
guess.
yes, we took it camping for a week and I used it and I liked it. It wasn't bad. The grill isn't practical in a when the stuffing hits the fan scenario, but it's fun when you're camping. But the kettle certainly is. It's well worth your money. And you can look up videos where they kick it down the
Yeah.
road, and it's very
So
durable.
so what about? I know another big issue is if, say, the grid went down or something like that, antibiotics to be able to uh, deal with different biological things we're going to encounter, like infections and stuff like that. I've heard it said that you can use different aquarium type, what do you want to call it, type cleaners or something like that that are actually. Have you heard about this?
Yes, it's the fish medication, or it's like a fish antibiotic. You have to look up the right ratio online that you take for your own. It has to be a well trusted site. I'm allergic to psyllins,
Hmm.
so my doctor that I've had for 25 years is he writes a couple extra, and I just keep a broad based antibiotic. I keep a stash of 5 or 6 of them. But I want to go home. I want
Yeah.
the good Lord to take me home.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're all going to go there, but we don't want to go faster than we have to if you still have things to do.
Or painful, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a 6-year-old grandson that I have to be concerned about. So that's who I'm
Yeah.
prepping for.
I'm with you. And guys, ultimately, this conversation tonight has been about, things we can do to be prepared in the event of, some sort of martial law, who knows what's coming down the road, just to be prepared. But ultimately, all these things are superficial from the standpoint that they're material and they fade away. Ultimately, you want to make sure you're spiritually prepared for tomorrow because the Bible says we're not promised tomorrow. And as we know, we aren't. And so you want to be ready to enter into eternity at any point in time. And the way you do that is by having a relationship with Christ, by having
Mhm.
Christ in your heart, because without him, eternal judgment is the only alternative. So,
Can I
but
plug? Can I plug
yeah,
a friend?
sure, go ahead.
I promised Steve Quayle I would plug his new book. He's coming out with a new audio book
Hmm.
February 15th on exclusively on his YouTube channel called Tears, an Ocean of Emotion. And I believe
Okay.
that the Lord gave him this revelation. So it's going to be an audio book.
Yeah.
Plug that tonight.
Well, tell Steve if he ever wants to come on, I'd love to have him. I know he's really busy and hard to, he's got a lot of stuff going on. He probably doesn't do as much of it as he used to. But anytime he wants to do the sharpening report, I'd love to have him. I know he's got a broad audience. I know he used to do, what was it? He used to do like a
Well, I'm uploading his
shortwave
Q
program.
files right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So
I'm
just do
uploading 2,000 Q files.
if you talk to him, just tell him I would be interested in having him on to talk and promote anything. I know it would be a huge show. People love Steve, so
That'd be
but
awesome. I will send him an email.
yeah. So Rhonda, thank you for joining me tonight. We should do this again and talk about prepping again because this is important. I learned a lot, and I think we
Well,
could even learn more. Yeah, go ahead.
there's so many different avenues.
Yeah,
Like if your electricity goes out, how do you stay warm? You pitch a
yeah,
small tent
yeah.
in your house, you know.
Awesome.
Anytime. God
Cool.
bless you all.
Yeah.
God keep you and make his face to shine upon you.
Amen. Well, guys, stay with me here. Coming up, I'm getting ready to. We're going to start up another program with Ron Bublitz. He's going to talk about his book, Ancient Prophecies. It references Ezekiel, a lot of stuff going on, end times, alien deception, that type of stuff. So he's going to be coming up here in a few minutes. I got to jump off here and get ready for this next show. But again, thanks for joining me, Rhonda. And guys, please
Bye.
jump back with me. I'm going to be going until midnight tonight. So stay aboard the train. The sharpening report train is going to continue. God bless.